I will find myself saying hallelujah. And all at once you bless me. You bless me. You bless me. I got shoes on my feet. I got clothes on my back. I got a roof on my head. Hallelujah. 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 One time. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Thank you. Thank you. You've been good. Thank you, Lord. Everybody say, I can't make it without you. I can't go no hallelujah. I just want to thank you. If I don't make it home, if I don't make it home, thank you. You're already been good. You're already been good. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Thank you.
Let me hear Los Angeles make some noise in this place. Oh, this is a live recording. Get up on your feet tonight. If you can't know that it's not about you, but that it's about Jesus Christ, the one who sits high and looks low, make some noise. Oh, y'all too quiet in here. Come on, let's go. Hey, it's not about us. We came here tonight for the man who died for me. It's about Jesus. Aren't you glad tonight? It's not about you. Hey, but it's about Jesus. Y'all still too quiet. Come on, say it again. It's not about us. Come on, y'all. Say it, but it's about Jesus. Aren't you glad that God for you tonight? It's not about you. We didn't come in to look at you, but it's about Jesus. Come on, y'all. Let's do the first verse. Come on. Said I present my body a living sacrifice, and it's wholly acceptable unto Christ. Everything I am and everything I'll be, put it at his feet. Hey, it's not about us. He's a man that sits high and looks low. It's about hallelujah tonight. Come on. It's not about you. Thank you, Jesus. It's about Jesus. Now I love this verse. Second verse, tell the devil. Come on. Said it's not about money. We didn't come here for fame. It's not about titles. You don't even have to know the name. Hey, I'm an instrument of praise. No, I'm not ashamed. I praise him all my days. Come on. It's not about us. Come on. Put your hands together tonight. It's about Jesus. He's the only living God. It's not about you. Hey, but it's about Jesus. I don't think y'all heard us. Say it again. Not about us. Thank you, Jesus. Tonight, it's about Jesus. Tell your neighbor, it's not about you. Hey, but it's about Jesus. Come on now. If you know it's about Jesus, let me hear you scream. He's the only man in history that died for you and got up for your sins. He loves you tonight. He wants to hear from you tonight. It's about Jesus. We didn't come in to look at you. Here we go. Hey, said it's not about us. Said it's not about us. Said it's not about us. But it's about Jesus. Said it's not about us. Said it's not about us. Said it's not about us. But it's about Jesus. Let's go. Said it's not about us. Said it's not about us. Said it's not about us. But it's
Connecting the community through gospel.
The new 107.9 FM, W300EB.
Macon and WDDO 980 AM.
Perry.
Macon.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
It is now time for the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwinnett, Westbrook, and Mr. Dumas.
And good evening and welcome to another segment of the NAACP Truth Show. I'm Willie Dumas, your host for today. I'll be joined later by President Westbrooks. I hope you're staying cool today. Got record hot temperatures here in middle Georgia, over 100 degrees. And so with the heat index, almost 104 and 106 around those parameters. So I hope you're being hydrated. Hope you're staying cool and staying out of the sun. If you don't have to be outside, of course, hopefully you're not out there. I hope you had a great weekend. We had some difficulties with some equipment on Monday, and so our show had to broadcast today. And so we hope our listening audience is tuning in today to the NAACP Truth Show. We should have a good show for you today. A lot of interesting things that have developed through the NAACP. One of them being there was a plea, or well, not a plea, but a resignation by Sheriff Cootie down in Bleckley County. And as you know, the NAACP has been very vocal, along with the Bleckley County chapter, as far as making certain that justice prevailed in that situation. For those of you who are not familiar with the case, of course, there was a groping of Judge Hatchett. Many of you probably remember Judge Hatchett from the TV judge show that she had. She's a former chief presiding judge in Georgia and a star from the TV show Judge Hatchett. And the verdict with Judge Hatchett, she was very thankful to her attorneys who represented her in this particular case. As you know, initially there wasn't a whole lot that was done when this first developed and when this incident first took place. And so the NAACP, the Bleckley County branch, along with the state branch, had put some pressure to have something done in that regard. And so he resigned and also pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor sexual battery charge on Monday after he had grabbed Judge Glenda Hatchett's chest back in January of 2022. And so as you can see, there's quite a bit of time that has transpired between that time to finally have something done. And so we applaud the efforts of her attorney as well as the NAACP in getting that done. And so also some things that are happening this weekend you want to pay attention to community-wise. A. Philip Randolph, along with some other organizations, will be sponsoring another expungement clinic at L.H. Williams School. And that clinic, I believe, starts around 11 o'clock and goes to about 2 o'clock. And so if you've had some misdemeanor charges that you wanted to get off your record, now would be a good time to attend this particular clinic to make certain those things can be removed. And so that will be happening this Saturday, beginning at around 10 o'clock, I believe. And you may want to get over there. They're going to have food, I believe, and music and other things while you wait your turn to get to see what can be done in regards to your record. And so we hope that the community will take advantage of this. It's not all the time that this occurs, and so it's a good time to get that done if you need to have that done. I also want to send a shout out to the Union Baptist Church who held a men's conference this weekend. This men's conference was for the community and only for men to participate. We had a really, really good conference with some very good facilitators that took place. Dr. Sims, the superintendent of schools, was there, and he facilitated, as well as Dr. DeVecchio, who's the CEO of Navison Health, and also Keith Howard, Dr. Keith Howard, mathematician over at Mercer University. He was there as well. We had representation from the Department of Juvenile Justice in the form of Mr. Ray Ham. We had Mr. Roger Jackson, who has a program that's geared towards helping troubled youth as well as troubled adults who may have not had a good shake, may have had some issues getting employment. And he talked about his program. We also had the owner of Urban Air, a very young individual who participated, had a great story about his challenges coming into becoming an entrepreneur. And so we had a wonderful conference. It was well attended by the community. And we hope that our men will take heed to a lot of the information that was given so that they can be effective in their various communities, making a positive step. One of the challenges that the superintendent gave was that the men would be visible in our schools as far as mentoring a lot of our youth. We know that there are some churches and some leaders in the community that have joined forces with the Board of Education to show their presence in our schools. And I think that is an integral part of our children changing their behavior by seeing positive role models displayed in their schools and in their communities. And so our hats go off to the committee that put together this men's conference. And hopefully in the future, there will be many more of these type conferences that can showcase some of the successes that we have here in our community. Those of you who have Georgia Power as your provider for energy, we know that they will soon, our bills will probably be increasing. They're at, I think it's Vogel, at Plant Vogel, they're doing some more reactors or something that may cause our bills to go up, as if we need those to go up anymore, particularly during this hot season. So you probably want to look out on your bills to see that little increase. Hopefully it's a small increase, not a large increase, on our power bills. I see President Westbrooks has joined us, and I'd like to say good evening to you.
Good evening.
And happy to have you here. And we've been talking a little bit about some of the things happening in the community. We talked a little bit about the resignation of Jeff Cootie in Bleckley County and the sentence that was given for him. I didn't give the actual sentence. I think he's also on probation.
Yeah,
that was a part.
For 12 months.
Right.
12. Hello, audience. 12 months probation, 40 hours of community service, $500 fine.
Right.
And he has to go to a psychiatric
counseling.
Yeah, for I guess alcohol.
Oh, okay. Wow.
You got to have a psych evaluation or something, I guess, to kind of figure out if something going on with him. Reason he felt he could just walk up to somebody and grope him.
Yeah. Wow.
So we'll see how that plays out. But the most important thing also is that he stayed on his job without any type of interruption or suspension or anything. Salary was not interrupted. He was never lost employment. And really looking at the information, everything that was put out there was a witness. Most likely in a place like that, there were cameras.
Right.
And so they most likely they had an airtight case. But at the same time,
There was
The
some
governor never
reluctancy.
made any type of the governor never made any type of statement in when Bleckley County did its press conference, they basically talked about compared another case with the same charges where he actually suspended this officer for, I think it was for 90 days.
Wow.
So it was nothing done. But you gotta look at Sheriff Cooter's Facebook page. It'll tell you the story.
Wow.
I'll pull up uh, Bleckley County Sheriff Department. It'll tell the story most likely um, why he was not disciplined.
Wow.
So like she said, when you resign and you have to look at whether or not your pension and all of that. So I'm sure all of that played a part in him stepping down. But like I say, you know, people like that, he'll have a job probably tomorrow if he want to work. So uh, we
So
just
it's basically almost like a slap on the wrist. Um,
yeah. And the thing about it is, you know, I know in Bibb County here, when officers do stuff, they quickly slap a oath of officer, which is a felony,
right.
with whatever charge they have. They always put an oath of officer in the which, and so it becomes a felony. See, because if they had did that, he could have been charged with had been registered as a sex offender too, probably.
Correct.
So,
Because that's a misdemeanor charge that
right,
he
it's a
actually
misdemeanor
has.
charge, yeah.
Wow.
And so, it's just it's just a sad situation because I watched her interview and she basically thought she was okay. She thought she was okay, and then after a couple of days, when it actually sinked in, she was not okay. For someone to just walk up and then you just feel helpless, and she was just like shocked where she couldn't even react to it.
Wow.
And so, no one, no woman should be touched in that manner, especially if they're not invited to do that. Uh, it's a violation of a person, and something. And I just sometimes men like that think that women are property.
Wow.
They look at them as property and they think that they can just do that, but it's inappropriate and it's not acceptable. And I just he basically got a slap on the wrist, but at least something was done. I'm glad that that we can look at our judicial system and see is that it does work in some cases.
Right. The degree, I guess, is the big factor as far as to what degree. Because when you talk about equal justice, you're looking at everybody getting treated in the same terms and
Hmm.
with the same type of punishment. And so,
Right,
in that regard, we kind of had a lesser type situation to happen. So,
right. So I was reading something. This was 4 days ago. It says federal judge strikes down portion of Senate Bill 202's voter suppression law after Georgia NACP lawsuit. So we was gonna have Attorney Griggs on, well, the state conference president on, but I can read it. It says the Georgia NACP People's Agenda League, a league of voter women's voter of Georgia and other coalition partners filed a lawsuit challenging the Senate Bill 202, a new law that restricted early voting in ballot drop boxes and criminalized providing water and food to voters waiting in line to vote. It says on Friday, August the 18th, a federal judge temporarily blocked provisions of Georgia's Bottom's 2021 voter suppression law, Senate Bill 202. One of the provisions that has been blocked require election officials to decline an absentee ballot if the birth date indicated on the outer envelope of the ballot did not align with the birthday on the voter's registration record. The second provision prohibited individuals from distributing food and water within 25 feet of a voter in line, even if the voter was more than 150 feet away from a polling place. Those who violated the rules could face criminal penalties, the practice commonly referred to as line warming. The
Wow.
recent victory of a voting rights can be attributed to the combined federal lawsuit initiated by a coalition of civil and voting rights groups. They challenged the various anti-voting provisions outlined in Senate Bill 202 in the court order that halted the birthday matching requirement within Senate Bill 202, says Judge J. Poley of the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia specifically ruled that this demand likely goes against the materiality provision of the Civil Rights Act. Provision safeguards against disenfranchisement due to minor errors unrelated to voter eligibility. We are committed to protecting the rights to vote against attempts by the state of Georgia to suppress the voices of millions of Georgians, stated the Georgia NAACP President Gerald Briggs. We also ready ourselves for the final decisions of our pending litigation in federal court. So um, those are some of the issues that we were challenging. How people are they're actually trying to criminalize people for giving war, even if the law says 25 feet, but you have people standing 150 feet,
150
and they
feet.
still saying that it's against the law. So um, it's that's like we were just talking this morning. I was down visiting the jail with Mr. Herbert Denard, the Walkaway Initiative, and we're gonna have him on the show, to talk about some of this stuff. But it's a lot of things that we talked about. They opened up about not try not to basically talk about their case, something that they don't need to talk about, not even on the phone, because they record those conversations. But we have a lot of people that are, we have women that are incarcerated, and my concern is that they some people, it's their first time, and my you know conversation with them is that you're here now and you don't need to come back. Whatever you need
Right.
to do, because you basically lost your freedom. And I'm telling you, oh God, right now it's about 148 when I checked with uh, the major that's over the jail. About 148 people that are incarcerated that are actually on probation violation.
Wow.
And so, looking at the printout that I, request, that the NACP request, we got people that are incarcerated on probation violation since 2018. It's 2023. Some people are, they're new charges, but still, it's 2023.
Wow.
So we're talking about 18, 19, 20, 20, but yeah, 4 years.
On probation.
Yeah. And so something has to be done. We, 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 we're going to be having a meeting. We're going to be having some important stakeholders at the table because it may need to get to a point where we deal with it on the legislature side, because we've talked about this before, about this palm hearing, which I just totally disagree with how that's done, because with a palm hearing, you actually waive all your rights. And people are not understanding that it actually lightens the judge caseload, because the more cases, when he assigned these cases under the palm hearing, the probation officer, basically does the determines whether or not you violate your probation, actually give you the sentence and whatever. But what I'm finding out is, um, not saying that a judge is not like that, but a judge has to be unbiased. But
Hmm.
when you allow the probation officer to make that decision, I'm seeing a lot of where probationers are, they're actually have personal vendettas against these probationers.
Wow.
And so that's something that needs to be looked at. I think that's too much control. That's giving them too much control to
And a
make.
person's giving up giving up their rights
Yeah, so I
to
don't think that they're signing it. I don't know if they understand it, but you're giving up your rights.
wow.
A lot of even you're giving up your rights to an attorney through this
Wow.
palm hearing process. So I just think giving, and that's something that's into legislation. That's something that we need to look at. And I know people get tired of me talking about the jail and the people incarcerated. because they're not on. But we talk about a lot of different things. But I want people to understand that just because someone is incarcerated does not mean that they don't have any rights.
Exactly.
And so, especially when people are going to court without attorneys, and so that's one of the things that you waive when you choose to go with the palm hearing. You waive your right to an attorney unless you actually want to hire one. So uh, I think that regardless of whether or not uh, you take the palm hearing or not, you still should be entitled to an attorney. You shouldn't
Exactly.
be going to court, and we have a situation like that right now. But I just think that's giving the probation officers too much power um, to be able to decide whether or not what kind of punishment a probation office, a probationer receives, because you know I'm seeing a lot of personal vendettas from probationers with these probationers, and I think it needs to be taken back out of their hands and given back to the courts. And that's going to most likely have to be changed on the legislature side. I don't think that we're just going to be go in and request it. We got to be able to show, and like I said, people don't understand that, Mr. Dumas, that with this new bill, and people may not say that it's true, but it is. If the governor passed a bill in 2021 saying that uh, we got, 'cause Georgia's one of the state that has the most people on probation
Wow.
in the United States.
Not
We
just
have more people on
wow.
probation, and so it's costing the state money to have people on probation and have people incarcerated. It costs them money. And so in 2021, he came up with this, and I've talked about this before. He came up with this bill that when probation is, you can, for example, you could be on a probation, got a 10-year probation, but if you've been on probation 3 years and you haven't gotten any more trouble, and you're showing that you don't have to be supervised, then they can petition the courts for your probation to be terminated. But what that does, when the first year that they did it, uh, the governor's office said that they saved about $3.8 million
Wow.
in that 1 year, and it was about 25% of the prison population of people that was on probation. It was about 25% of those that were eligible for the early termination. So what happens is, and people not looking at the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
When you have something that's been put in place to eliminate, to save money, people jobs are going to be in jeopardy.
Correct.
And that's what we're seeing. That's what I'm seeing in dealing with a lot of these probationers, is job security for these people to be able to have people continuously be on probation. And folks say, well, when you're saying that, it's like you're saying that they're intentionally. That's exactly what I'm saying. You Why would it? Doesn't make sense. And I'm looking at someone that goes take drug tests on a regular basis, can go 8 months without testing positive. You're told, well, next week you're gonna be moved to a different phase, so you're closer to finishing. Then boom, all of a sudden you tested positive.
Wow. So
So why would somebody so why would somebody go 9 months without drug or alcohol free, and then when they get ready to move up to another level to be able to almost finish this thing, then you decide to just be crazy and just go drink alcohol, and then you come in with a positive test, you finna get ready to move on, move further in the program. Who would? Why? I know people do that, but it's not making sense. So I'm just concerned whether or not people are actually being intentionally kept on probation.
right, because it's financially it's
It's job
beneficial
security.
in job security.
It's
Yeah.
job security. And if you are on probation, and You got all these people that are locked up and can't get into court. Who's holding it up?
Good question.
And I'm telling you, I we sit in the courtroom, but I just tell people they need to keep good documentation, keep good, because I've seen it. And another thing that we need to look at, when you're in these palm hearings, you can appeal the palm hearing decision to the sentencing court. But the thing about it is, they deny you your file, your probation file. So if you want to appeal your case,
You don't have anything to go on. Wow.
They deny your case saying you can't get it because you're incarcerated. What does that have anything to do with it? Because a person that's incarcerated, that's not on probation, maybe for a new charge or a charge period, their attorney
has
gives you a
access.
discovery,
Right.
whatever's going on with your case or whatever filings and all that, whatever evidence that the district attorney office may have, your attorney has that same information, and the attorneys give their clients a copy of the discovery. That's no different. So, but they do that. So just like she did, she appealed her case.
Mm-hmm.
Then they come back with something else, say, "Oh, she didn't report. She ain't never been arrested for it." They never been arrested for not reporting. They have never been in trouble for that. So if that was his, but see, if you had gave that person their file, you couldn't come back and do that.
Right.
Because they know what's in their file. So to deny a person, those are the things that we got to cover. If you're gonna be able to say that a person you're gonna assign them out to a palm hearing, and if they appeal the case, they should be able to obtain a copy of their file. It's no different than discovery.
Right.
So it's a lot of things that needs to be looked at with this probation process. You got people that they need beds for people that are actually committing violent crimes.
Because there's a lot of that happening as well. I understand it was a shooting.
Yeah.
This weekend downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And so also a suicide yesterday, I believe, and right off of Sherland Drive in the East Macon area. Mm-hmm. So just a lot going on.
Yeah, and people, like I said, this mental health is very serious, and we it's a lot of undiagnosed mental illnesses, and it's just that a lot of people don't identify that they don't identify, and I'm my brother said that I was a good kind of judgment of character, and I can look at somebody and tell their demeanor, the way their eyes look at different things like that. You can tell sometimes when people
going through.
Yeah. And so you just got a lot of undiagnosed mental health. I
know I was talking earlier about the men's conference we had at Union this weekend, and Dr. Jimmy Smith was one of the panelists, and he was talking about mental health, and he talked about various things that affect people, and a lot of times they don't even know it's affecting them.
Right. So we just gotta stay prayerful for one thing. Community, we got to stay prayerful, and we got to pray for each other.
Absolutely. Well, that's our time.
Good afternoon, Ricky Crawford.
Yes, good afternoon. And
Good seeing you.
We'll see you guys on next Monday at 4:00. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
You have been listening to the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwinnett Westbrook and Mr. Dumas. Come join us next Monday at 4:00 p.m. on 980 WDDO.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.